We're still backed up behind the pace car here at Mount Panorama. 103 laps out of 161 for the great race. 4 hours 12 minutes. We've been about 5.5 laps behind the pace car following the end of Dick Johnson's day at the top of the mountain. We saw just a short time ago, inexplicably, Mark Scaife, we didn't actually see it, Mark Scaife passed the pace car, which is not the ordered thing to do. Apparently, we see it here in a replay that we did have on one of our remote cameras. Scaife apparently was under the impression that he'd been waved through by the pace car. Maybe he was waved through by the pace car. We might find out. Perhaps Richard Hay can find out more from Fred Gibson.
Thank you, Wilco. Yes, well, Fred, what did happen when Mark Scaife went past the pace car?
Well, they had two slower cars in front of him. They didn't pick up the leader, so they waved them past. And in the waving them past, they waved Mark past as well, so they didn't realise what was going on, apparently. So I had to get on the Shenk at the clerk of the course and go up and try and work it out and tell Mark to go back behind the pace car. So thank God it's all sorted out anyway, Richard.
Must have made your heart miss a beat for a second, though.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to lose a lap in the pace car, and with Larry there right behind, we don't need to lose a lap. It's going to be a good race to the finish now, and hopefully sort of, you know, it's going to be no rain and sort of no more pace cars.
Thanks, Fred.
Back to racing. Pace car pulls into pit lane, and we're back into it. Car number 1, Freddie Gibson Commodore, and the Castrol Commodore honing in again. Mark Scaife at the wheel of number 1. Co-driver Greg Hansford at the wheel of Larry Perkins, Castrol Commodore. And boy, what a bonus. 48 seconds the gap before they brought the pace car out. Now he's right on his hammer once again.
At that last stop, Freddie Gibson elected to put Scaife back in the car, and Larry Perkins got out for Hansford. Clearly, they're going to try and put as much of a gap between themselves. They left their premier driver in, and they're going to try and put as much of a gap between them as they possibly can.
Oh, gee, Greg Hansford's not a bad pedal.
Yeah, he's no slouch. He's been doing a very good job through the traffic. And that also points, I guess, to the confidence that Larry has in Greg Hansford at this stage of the race, a critical stage.
Please don't think I was being rude about Greg. I apologise to the Greg Hansford fan club. One of my favourite drivers, certainly one of my favourite motorcyclists. I saw him here in '74 in the Grand Prix race with Warren Willing, wheel for wheel, the lead changing 14 times in the race. Sensational. I respect him. Leave me alone.
Race leader Mark Scaife in the number 1 Winfield Commodore, highballing in front, the pace car off the circuit and back to full-blooded racing. A gap of just over 2 seconds now from Greg Hansford and the past.
I heard that too.
Yeah, I don't know who's yelling at me for
I don't know who it was aimed at. But Scaife putting in the big ones now. He's trying to open up some gap here on Hansford as soon as he can. These cars have all their gearbox and diff temperatures will have all gone down. Nice cooling off period, so it's effectively turned into 2 different races.
But the theory from pit lane is that from here to the finish, Perkins will only require 1 more stop, and the Winfield car will require 2.
That's interesting.
55, which has been running in the top 10 for so long today, but no longer. Yes, it is. Sorry, it was when it came to the pits, was in 7th place, but has been there for best part of a lap now and lost a considerable amount of time. Back in the running, Steve Harrington at the wheel as we return to race leader Mark Scaife, coming back across the start-finish line once more to clock up 105 laps.
Well, Greg Hansford there. It's a visual gap. You see on that wide shot, it's just keeping him in view as they came across the strike that time. 3.7 seconds the gap. But you know, Greg could be driving to orders. This is a pretty good plan.
The point I would make, and it's always nice to give a guy a rap when he deserves one, but Greg Hansford has driven the 12-hour race here and been a part of Mazda's winning strategy for the last 2 years and hasn't raced in anything else. And I think it's just fabulous to see that Larry Perkins would entrust him with a pole-winning car. His speed today and his handling of the car in tight moments has been superb. One of Australia's most underrated drivers, Greg Hansford.
Certainly is. He's a once-a-year racer, but a guy with tremendous racing pedigree. 41 years of age, lives in Brisbane. 6-time Australian motorcycle champion, 2nd in the Australian Endurance Championship in 1984. It was Alan Moffat's RX-7 team. Class winner of Bathurst 1000 in 1985, and his best result 4th at Bathurst 1000 in 1986. Tremendous competitor, and a guy who can just turn up here at Bathurst every 12 months and get right on the pace. It's quite a phenomenal talent that this guy possesses.
Well, not only Greg, but I know Alan Horsley, who runs the Mazda team here for the 12-hour, has a huge rep also. There's Gary Walden, and Charlie O'Brien, who don't get to run touring car championship racing.
And David Parsons.
Yep. They're just guys who can step into a car on a race day, do everything that's expected of them, not make mistakes, and deliver.
Yep. Hansford does it year after year, and he's been entrusted to some of the leading teams in the country for year after year. He doesn't get a lot of miles, as Michael said. And the fact that this man, Larry Perkins, has entrusted this car at this critical stage of the race for this co-driver just shows how good Hansford is behind the wheel.
Well, he's going to have to be good, isn't he? He's going to have to keep that car circulating around the 2-minute 16 17s for them to have a mortgage on this race, if it's possible for anybody to have a mortgage on this remarkable race.
Certainly that equation of 2 pit stops required for Freddie Gibson's cars as opposed to 1 for Larry puts the ball in their court if they can keep this thing going.
The weather's holding off so far. We had reports of rain to the southwest earlier. We had sprinkles on the lenses of the cameras and the windscreens of the cars. But at this juncture, the track is dry and staying dry.
So the exit to that turn, mountain straight again for Larry Perkins' car. Greg Hansford at the wheel. But certainly a lot happening here over the past hour. Let's go down to Chris Economaki.
Well, thank you. I'm in race control with Tim Shankin, the clerk of the course, and it's a very busy place. This is the nerve center of the 2 East 1000. Tim, how many people do you have working in race control?
We have 15 people in here actively working. They're all on the communication system, so we have contact with all the points around the circuit and all the emergency services.
Now, you just had an emergency. How did that work in here? Was it a hectic operation to call the race under the yellow flag and slow it down?
Well, it is all very hectic because you have the 15 people issuing instructions over the radio and through the telephone link, so it's quite a hectic period.
Looking at all these people sitting down, you've got one fellow sitting on a chair there. He looks like a coxswain on a crew. What is his job?
He's the assistant clerk, of course, and his responsibility is to monitor all the communication service.
How has the race gone from a standpoint of protest and violations? Have you had any yet?
No, we've had a couple of niggling problems, but so far it's been running smoothly. We hope it stays that way.
Well, so do we. Thank you very much for your time. We know you're a busy man. Tim Shankin, clerk of the course, playing host to the Channel 7 crew. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Chris. And joining us up in our race centre, and he didn't plan to be here today, and I think he'd rather have been still organising pit stops for the Synovus Vitamins Falconel EB, but it's great to have Alan Moffat back and sharing the commentary seat. Al, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mike. And as good looking as you all are up here, you're right, I would prefer to be in the pit lane.
Well, we're just watching now as Brocky waved goodbye to the HRT car passing him down the straight. Alan, were you able to determine what stopped the Synovus car?
Well, it was a long walk back for Andrew Madecki, but he started to lose gears and eventually all transmission, and we're analyzing that the first motion shaft, the shaft that comes out of the clutch into the start of the gearbox, decided to have a weak moment. Well, very strange. The Hollinger gearbox is a world-class gearbox, and I know for a fact Larry Perkins takes great pride in one that he put 12,000 kilometers on. I think it must have been a freako job.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the boys gave it a good ride because you came here with a game plan and you wanted to run in the 218s, and that car was creeping up into the top 10 at the right end of the day.
Yes, right about now we would have been just sitting in about 10th spot, but that's the past. I thank the crew for a tremendous job. And both drivers did their best. A lot of development laps here from Wednesday through till Saturday. And we felt quite confident this morning that the car would run quite durably. But it's a chain link fence, and it only takes one little link to break you down. Larry will he'll be biting his fingernails down there in the pits at the moment.
I would say he would. The other good thing, I guess, is you take your car home straight, and to bring a new car out and take it home like Dick's car would just be...
I felt quite sick when I saw that.
Fortunately, Dick is okay, and we're pleased to report that's still a bit sore. Those things do happen in racing. It wasn't his fault, and I'm not going to start proportioning blame anywhere, because the guy who actually collided with Dick is a guy that might only race each year here at Bathurst, but he's been here for many, many years, Bill O'Brien.
No, he's a seasoned old boy, and he does know the circuit. I think it was one of those things traveling at a high speed. There were times that on that part of the circuit where we were sort of creeping along, almost only in second gear, getting the car up over that top of that little brow there. But with today's transmissions and the power that's available and the traction that the cars get, you fly through the cutting, let alone that part of the track. And I think it was the fact that Dick was at speed, may have said from what I saw the other fellow start to lose it, and he elected to try and get by, and he didn't quite make it. It's a tough call.
So what's the plan for next year, Alan? Any chance of a Alan Moffat racing Falcon on the touring car circuit?
Well, Mark, you like to ask me this in private all the time, but now that you're doing it in front of all of Australia, I'm happy to say yes. We're plodding along all the time, and we'll be back.
Terrific.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Alan. This just at the moment, we're looking at the 2-litre category at the moment, 34th. Car number 13, the Toyota Corolla Seca.
Yeah, pretty effective little car. It's been here for a number of years. 950 kilograms of weight. 4-cylinder, 2-litre dual overhead cam engine with 4-valve, multi-valve technology there. Fuel injected with electronic engine management system. Only about 260 brake horsepower at 8,500 RPM. 6-speed Hollinger transmission with this trick sequential shift. If I can get that out, front-wheel drive. But for the size of the car, massive brakes, 13.5-inch ventilated. When you compare that to a Falcon 14-inch, you can see how these things stop so well. And only 9 inches of rubber on the road. So quite effective car, and I guess the reason why they've done so well at Bathurst.
We've been trying to keep you up to date with the splits and so forth all day, bringing you a comprehensive coverage of the great race. Our friends from Alltrex, who monitor speeds, radar trap speeds down Conrod Straight. And be interesting for you folks at home to work out the fastest car today on Conrod Straight. Is it the one car, or is it Larry Perkins' car? No, it's the Neil Crompton car that's running 277 regularly, radar trapped on Conrod Straight. And the 16 car, of course, the Wayne Gardner car, Brad Jones, and the 30 car of Glenn Seaton, both running 276. The Mark Skaife car at 274, the second PJ car at 274, Larry Perkins' car at 272.
Now, I hope I won't get into strife here for saying this, but after paying our respects to Greg Hansford, it's fairly clear that Skaife is going away. The gap now 8.8 seconds, and he's just recorded another 2-minute 15-second lap.
Let's check them out on our 2-litre Caltex race scores. Smith and Bates on lap number 92, leading over the Cotter and Dillman car. Then Rogers and Hopwood are up into third in the Bob Holden Motors Toyota Corolla. Still hanging there in fourth spot is Steve Masterton and Hills in the Masterton Country Home Sierra. And rounding out the top 5 in the 2-litre class, Conway and Gardner in a Corolla. That gives you a gap from 92 back to 84. So there's a fair split over those 2-litre cars here at Mount Panorama. So there goes the Corolla down Conrod Straight.
Oh, it's car 15, Mazira Percy. Dear, dear, that's at the end of Conrod Straight. They've gone straight across the sand and hit the arm car. They're in 4th position. It's a quirky time. It always happens at Bathurst this hour. 2 till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It all starts to turn upside down.
Just unbelievable to go away and give you 2-litre fans an update on your cars, and at the same time in has gone the 15 car. Here's what happened straight off. He knows where he's going.
One thing about understeering, you know what you're going to hit. Crunch.
Ooh.
And look at the jerk on the neck there as Percy got flung forward. So win Percy out of the car. What a great disappointment for the Holden Racing team.
That was a real slingshot on his neck. I don't think people are aware of how heavy the helmets are.
Look at that shot, Alan. Look how heavily he's hit the fence.
Definitely. I'm surprised to see Wynn. Well, he got his helmet off in a hurry, and you notice how quickly he got away from the scene of the crime.
It's another argument for the window nets we were talking about earlier, really, isn't it? We've seen it now with Dick Johnson. He nearly flicked his head out the window twice.
Cameron
but he
McConville
impacted with the concrete at the top of the